set of amenities and common space. And we'll take existing properties, renovate them, make them look nicer, and then put in the correct operations and get it going. So we do both options, buy existing and build.
What when you look at an asset, and I'm going to call it distressed, right? I'm going to take this all the way back to maybe my single family days of flipping houses.
Yeah.
You could spot one a mile away, like, oh, hey, there's a house we can make a pile of money on, because you see the common signs. Like, what are the common signs you're finding in assets that you're acquiring and then renovating? You're like, oh, hey, there's something that we can turn around.
Yeah, it's a little different than what you might find in a home or multifamily, in the fact that you might find a multifamily that, hey, it's just a little tired. There's deferred maintenance and the prices are a little bit too high. If we just go through and carpet paint and lighting and maybe some changes that we can then compete and have it fill back up and charge higher rate. Within the senior housing space, if you think about how you choose a hospital, for example, it's less about what the building looks like and more about the reputation and their operational ability to care for you. Right. So when you take those two concepts, senior housing sort of sits in the middle, where there's a component where you want it to look good and nice, but at the same time, you have to have a solid reputation. And there's a saying in our industry, which is that chandeliers don't give care, people do. And so you see that. Now, when people first look to move in, they want to make sure the building looks nice, and you just kind of hit those table stake options, that it smells good. You got somebody that's greeting at the front desk, things like that. But then ongoing, what they really want is that someone's going to do two things. They're going to properly care for your loved one, and they're going to love them, right? So those are those two sort of aspects that you need. So when we look at a property that's maybe distressed, you'd be surprised that sometimes they're distressed because they've had deferred maintenance and they're older, and there's an opportunity just to do like a CapEx improvement plan. Right. But we see a lot of new buildings that are also distressed, and it's because they missed on that reputational or operational component to it. And those are ones that we love, because it just is a matter of just finding the right team, training them properly, incentivizing them, and just having everybody pull in the same direction. And that doesn't actually take a lot of CapEx, but you can't go buy it at Home Depot either. So you gotta build it. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds more like a company culture issue than it does like you're saying, a CapEx item.
Right. Yeah, you can't go to aisle 13 in Walmart and buy company culture. It's one of those secret sauce items that you have to just constantly work on, and especially when you have a couple thousand employees, that is truly something that we focus a lot on. In fact, this is something we pulled from Netflix. We have what's called the culture deck, which is about a 70-page PowerPoint slide that goes through all of our culture items that we talk about.
How, I mean, from a couple, from two sons and dad saying, all right, hey, let's go buy some senior living facilities. That's cool. To now having a 70-page culture deck, like that's a lot of progress, first of all. But how did you decide, and how did you finally figure out, especially from the early days, what that culture was going to look like, how you wanted that to actually play out? I mean, that to me sounds a lot like work. Going, okay,
yeah,
this is going
sounds pretty daunting, right?
That's a great word for it.
So if you were So for your listeners on the podcast, what I'd recommend, if you want to get some exposure to senior housing, what you want to do is partner with a management company, like an operator that will be able to do it for you. I wouldn't just jump in and start saying, great, this is easy, I'm just going to start buying and operating senior housing, unless you got a lot of time. So the first thing you can do is you can find a property, and then you basically just couple it with a very good operator. And there's usually a handful of operators in every state that are well known that will partner with you. And and some of them do third-party management, where they'll come in and just manage for a fee. And then the other option is you could joint venture with them, where it's the manage for a fee, plus they'll probably throw in some capital and invest alongside you. So that's probably step one. If you don't want to go build like a 60-page culture deck and manage a whole set of employees and payroll and everything that goes with it. And then you can learn a lot by doing that. And if you feel like it's worth it, then you could over time just like morph into launching your own management company.
Who is the hardest employee for you guys to bring on and kind of fit into your system? Like, what's the greatest need that you say inside of your business? Like, man, this is somebody that makes or breaks us, and it's probably the hardest seat to fill.
Yeah, we're a 24-hour business. So the hardest seat to fill would probably be a weekend, night shift, med tech, or caregiver, right? So imagine it, right? Your 2 a.m. Sunday morning caregiver. That's probably your hardest position to fill. And they're the most important because they're right front lines on